power creep. And I put this in here because I have been playing actually a non Web3 game, but the Pokemon Pocket game. It's just been the one that's easiest on my phone. I've been playing a lot. And the game's only been out for about 6 months now. And every like 2 months, they come out with like a new pack of cards. And I'm starting to see, and this isn't the first game I've seen it with. I've seen it with other Pokemon games and other games. But the idea of like the power creep, like the new set gets launched, and if you're not buying into the system and paying to get all of these new cards or these new characters, then you're kind of like left in the dust. You can't compete if you're not continuously buying into the system. But in Web3, that's harder to do because the assets that you're getting, you have true ownership. They have real value. In Pokemon Pocket, it's just like, oh well, like it's not like I could do anything with those old cards anyways. But say for example with Illuvium or any other Web3 game, if Illuvium wanted to generate more revenue, maybe they'd make the newer Alluvials stronger. But then that hurts the people who were here for the original set. So how do you see that idea working? Because it's clearly a concept that these big, companies like Pokemon, they do to drive more revenue. Is that power creep, making the newer ones, bigger, faster, stronger, I guess you'd call it. Can projects in Web3 get away with that? Or what's going to happen if they make a new set and it's all balanced and people are just like, I'm happy with what I already have. I don't need to buy more into getting these new ones. Tyron, you got anything to say on that one?
Yeah, I mean, the whole power creep thing, it's a short-term play. That's all it is. It's a short-term play. Yes, short-term you make a bunch of revenue. Long-term you're just keeping new players from coming in, or like the old play. It's just not a good concept for gamers. For a studio, yes, short-term they make a bunch of revenue. But for example, I didn't play Pokemon the TCG. I was into it when it first came out. I'm not even going to play it now. I don't even know what the situation is, but I just feel like I'm way left behind and it's not a thing. I think the idea is to build a proper game, a functioning, maybe there's something you can do with an economy where you burn, or there's a drain or something like that, where you can burn older assets to get something. I don't know. But the whole idea of power creeps, I think if you make a proper game, a sustainable economy, like people should be buying into the actual IP and the experience rather than, hey, I need to keep up to date to to be viable. I mean, we see it with MOBAs. I can't speak on League. I don't really play League, but Dota, for example, Dota's been around for God knows how long. They're bringing new characters all the time. I say all the time, but relatively frequently. And yes, there are some cool things about them, but it's not like, oh, the old characters are just unplayable or useless. Actually, if you look at the meta, a lot of the old characters, the original characters, are still up there in the meta. And that's what a good balance looks like, right? So yeah, I think short term, cool. Yes, if you're thinking about revenue, it could work short term. Long term, I think it affects the players, and it's not something that we should be considering seriously. My thoughts.
Yeah, the other thing with that is to think about like new players coming in. If you do have that power creep, then it does give new players like they feel like they're not that left behind because it's the new characters that just came out that are the most powerful anyways. So like even with Pokemon Pocket, if you just join into that game right now and you're just going for the latest card set, then you can be competitive. Where if everything is balanced and those original ones are still really strong, then you kind of get that feeling of, oh, I'm left out. I missed out on the previous one, so maybe I wait. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there.
Sorry, I'll say this real quick before throwing it to Paz. I think the goal with new sets in any game is not that they're more powerful, is that they unlock more opportunities. So I'll use Dota as an example. I don't know if you guys play Dota or have any experience. If you guys have League of Legends experience, it'll be a similar thing. But the new characters aren't overpowered. But what they allow is that the new characters start to mesh with older characters and you get to start new comps. You get more opportunities. What about this? What about that? And it's not because they're inherently just insanely more powerful. It just allows players to try and do more things, have more fun, express themselves in more ways. That's the goal, in my opinion. And there is a reason Dota is still absolutely killing it. I'm sure League does the same thing. Again, I can't speak on League, but like you look at games like that, there is a reason that to this day I'll install Dota for one day, realize how much of a time sink that is, and uninstall it at the end of the day. But I'll waste a whole day going back to it, being like, oh, there are new characters, there are new things, and go around and play it. I think that's the goal of new sets. Not, hey, we have a new set. You need to use this, otherwise you have no chance at all. And then the old play, like, it's just, I don't know, man. I think it's flawed. I think all of these solutions are short term, and I think the winners are the ones that think long term, not short.
Yeah, and the power creep is mostly been introduced through card games, right? Because card games, you print cards, you cannot balance them anymore. You cannot change them. So the only way that you can bring out a new set is to make it a bit stronger, and like you cannot change anything retroactively. And that is not the case with League of Legends, for example. And that's why all those, same like in Dota, all those 120 champions, they try to have a balance between all of them. It's not like the old ones are useless. All of them are valid. So what you want to be able to do, which it gets a little bit harder the more characters you get, you want to have a good balance across all of them. And yeah, new things introduce new things. What League of Legends does is, though, when they bring out a new champion, this champion is completely overpowered for like 2 weeks. Everybody has to buy it. Everybody is playing it. And then they bring out the first balance patch, and then everything is in line again. So I think this is a little bit bland and very obvious what they're doing, but it's a good strategy, right? To at least have this short-term necessity of buying it because it's overpowered. But then in the end, you want to have a just homogen. I don't know. It's just a good balance across the line. And yeah, that's what we can do in Illuvium as well. I've talked to Aaron, and he said a Rampfire will never be banned, because that's the other way you can fix broken stuff. You can either introduce stuff that is better to make the old stuff redundant, or you just make broken stuff not playable in a competitive setting. We have seen that in Hearthstone and Magic, where just different cards are banned. This is again a card game mechanic. I think in the case of Illuvium and Illuvials, you can just keep balancing stuff so everything is viable and nothing stands out too much. There will always be overpowered stuff, but then you get a new balance patch, and that's kind of what meta is, right? Different overpowered stuff over the time that you have to find out and keep shifting.
When you said Aaron said that the Ramfire will never be banned, is that meaning like it'll always be balanced the right way? So it's never like too overpowered. Like if it does become too overpowered, they just tune it down a little bit so it'll still be, viable or playable in a game, in a tournament.
Yeah, I mean, that interview was like probably 1 or 2 years ago, so maybe things have changed. But the original idea, and I think this is very well still in line with what the idea behind Illuvium is, if you have a Rampfire, this will always be able to be played in a competitive setting, and they're just gonna balance it to be not overpowered or not having to be banned, similar to League of Legends. No champion is ever banned from competitive play. Maybe sometimes they're taken out for one competition because it's broken right now, but then it gets a balance patch and it's all good again. But yeah, we don't have that with card games, so that's where power creep comes into play, where you just have to fix broken stuff from the past by introducing even more broken stuff in the future. And yeah, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah. And I don't want to ignore this, but I don't really know much about Marvel Rivals. Do either of you guys know that? Do they have like a
power? Yeah, it's Overwatch. It's a hero shooter. 6 players. Right, yeah. I don't really plays a role here, I think. Yeah. It's the similar thing. They have less champions than League, but it's similar. You do want to keep every champion available, every hero that you can play, and it's just gonna bring out balance patches. And there's gonna be different meta where different stuff is overpowered and underpowered, but nothing is ever gonna be replaced by the new stuff permanently with introducing power creep.